One of the exciting skills in SimTheory is the ability to create your own AI generated images. Many people have seen these images on the internet and would like to know how to create their own. What we've done in SimTheory is brought you the best available image generation models all in one place, so you can use them as a skill in SimTheory. So to access the image creation ability, you click this plus button down here next to the message thing, and you'll see the skills list. We're going to be adding lots of different skills to this over time, but one of the main ones for now is create an image. If we click that, we'll see there's several image models available. So there's Midjourney. Now, in my opinion, Midjourney is the best. It is the state-of-the-art way to create AI-generated images. They've just released a new version called 6.1 that's generating absolutely amazing images. We have Stable Diffusion XL, which is an open source version from Stability AI, which is also here. And this open source version has a wide variety of images it can create, and you get some pretty good results from that one too. Stability AI is the company that makes Stable Diffusion, so Stability is their commercial offering. And you'll see you get quite different results from Stability and Stable Diffusion. And finally, we have DALL-E 3 from OpenAI. So today I'm going to go through each of these with examples that I've created as a good idea of something you might use the image models for, and showing you the differences between the models and also how you can use those images within SimTheory. So let's start with Midjourney. You'll see we have a bunch of options here you can select. You can just ignore all of these options if you like and just put a prompt down the bottom. So let's do that, and I'll show you creating an image, and then after that I'll go through and explain what each of the prompts mean. Now, I've come up with a sort of use case where I'm running a rustic homemade soap and yogurt company, and so I want these images to put on my labels basically. So I've got a rustic label for pine-scented soap with a simple evergreen tree sketch, a minimalist label design for lavender soap featuring a small purple flower illustration, and a label for a yogurt bottle showing an alpine cow with a bell on. So let's try our yogurt one first with the cow. So I'm just going to paste that text in there. You can type your text in here and click send. And now the system will go off and create those images for us. And we see now that the images come in that have been created by Midjourney. Now, Midjourney can take sometimes a long time to generate the images. That's because it's a queue-based system. So sometimes you get lucky and it's really fast, and sometimes it's slower. You'll see with our other models that the speed reliability is a lot more consistent, but maybe the results aren't quite as good. So let's have a look at what it's produced. So this is sort of taken the whole label thing literally, but it looks kind of cool. I could see this being printed on a yogurt label, even though it's got a drink that is nothing to do with yogurt. We've got a cow standing in water with a drink bottle, not quite what we wanted. This one's looking a bit more like what I had in mind, where I could put this label on my yogurt bottle. And finally, we have this one, which actually is really nice and sort of has that nice rustic feel. So let's try my next example, also on Midjourney. So I'll go a rustic label for pine-scented soap. This one seems pretty good. Or should we do lavender soap? No, I think we'll stick with pine-scented. Now, we do have shortcuts in SimTheory, so I can type /MJ, and I get straight into the Midjourney mode, which is a little bit faster. So let's send that one. So we're now waiting for it to load a rustic label for pine-scented soap with a simple evergreen tree sketch. Okay, so that one is now finished, and we see our potential labels for our pine-scented soap. So this one straight away really stands out to me as quite beautiful. This one, it's kind of taken it literally and made a picture of soap, not really what we're after. This one looks pretty good. I could see that being printed out on a label. And finally, this one, that is actually really beautiful. I love that design. That's really nice. So you can see we can get some pretty amazing images from Midjourney. Now, I said I'd take you through some of the options, so I'll show you those. And you'll see here that we have different styles we can pick. And these styles are sort of specified by the Midjourney team as things that it officially supports. You can sort of add this stylization information to any model, but Midjourney specifically lists these as ones they can do. So we could maybe pick one of these as an example, just something that's going to look strikingly different from the other ones. Maybe let's go for like claymation. Now, we also have aspect ratio, and aspect ratio is essentially the dimensions of the image. So is it a square? Is it like a sort of more cinematic rectangle style thing, like here, widescreen brilliance, tall and captivating, and you can pick that. So let's do widescreen for this one. Negative prompt. So this is where you give it things you don't want. So you might things like blurry, faded. We don't want it blurry or faded. We want the opposite of that. There's also this chaos setting, and so this is essentially how close to what you ask it to do does it do versus how varied it is between the different images that it produces. So if you go right down here, all the images are going to be tiny variations of one another. Up here, they're going to be wildly different. So if you're just brainstorming and you want totally different ideas, you'd use this. I think in this case, let's make them really similar so we can see if we can get variations on a theme. The seed is essentially a way you can control, do I get the same output for the same prompt? So if you keep telling it the same thing, it'll give you the same result. Whereas if you pick a different seed for the same prompt, you'll get a different result. It's just a way of consistency if you're interested in that. And the final step is to use an LLM to improve the prompt. So this is where if I just write something really basic like clay dog, right? That's not a very detailed prompt. We can use the LLM, and what it'll do is actually behind the scenes something like a clay dog running down the street with a blue sky and a rainbow or something like that, and it'll greatly enhance it. So in this case, let's use that option. And I think for the claymation scene, we'll go for a yogurt shop with a dog out the front. How about that? And we'll see how we go. So we're going a claymation yogurt shop with a dog out the front. It's not going to be a blurry or faded, and we're going to get 4 fairly similar images in theory. Let's go. Okay, and so now we have our results. Let's have a look. So the first thing I notice is that they are very similar. And we did that with the chaos factor. So we kept that low, so we're getting similar images. Let's have a up close look. So it definitely looks like clay based. That's kind of cool. It looks more like an ice cream shop than a yogurt shop, but it's pretty close, and it's got a dog out the front. So we got a pretty good idea of what we wanted here, and that's kind of cool. That one's really pretty. I like that. Maybe that one's even nice as well. So you can see you can get with the styles quite a varied array of outputs that are of a really high quality. So let's now move on to the next image model, which is Stable Diffusion XL. And what I'm going to do from now on with the models is stick with ones we've done before, because I want to show you the different styles of output coming from the different models. And this is something you'll want to experiment with to get the results for whatever your project is. You'll note we have the same styles available here. And in the case of Stable Diffusion XL, we get to decide the number of images we like. So you can have 1, 2, 3, or 4. I think in this case, just for speed reasons, let's just go for 3. And we won't use the LLM to improve the prompt in this case because we're trying to compare with our Midjourney creation. So let's use Stable Diffusion XL and create the yogurt bottle label showing an alpine cow with a bell on. Okay, and so that one's complete. So let's have a look. So it's taken the label situation a bit more literally. I mean, that looks kind of cool, but that looks like an entire label that you might wrap around a bottle, which is kind of cool. And it's put in like the little logos and things like that, which you maybe don't want, but you could definitely put that in. That one looks pretty cool too. So Stable Diffusion XL has definitely taken it more seriously as a label, and you can see it sort of attempts to write text here. Some of the models you'll find aren't wonderful at text, so sometimes you would probably want to avoid text in the negative prompt or something along those lines to avoid it. But that's still a pretty good interpretation, and you can see it's got a sort of different aesthetic to the other one, and obviously you can play around with the prompt and get different results. So let's try the exact same one with Stability AI and see what kind of result. You'll see here we have different options. So each of the models is going to have different options based on what's supported by the model itself and by its API. So let's go for 3 images again. The seed here is similar to the other models where you can change it to either keep if you keep it the same, you'll get the same result for the same prompt, or you can change it around. Number of inference steps is how long it takes to generate for starters, but also how detailed the image becomes. And you might think, well, more detailed is always better, but that isn't always the case. And you'll find that depending on what image you're trying to create, you may want less in some cases to just have something that's closer to what you're asking for. So we also have this adherence to prompt here as well, which is very similar to what we saw with the chaos factor on Midjourney between the images. But this is more about how close does it stick to what you're asking for, or how creative does it get. So it's a slightly different concept because this is on a per image basis rather than across all the images. So in our case, we want it to stick pretty closely. So I'll drop that down to a 2. And we're not going to use the LLM to improve the prompt because we're trying to compare the different models. So let's run this now on stability and see how we go with it. Okay, so that's come back from stability. And we're seeing more interesting kind of labels coming through. I really like that one. That's actually really cool. And that one's there is pretty good as well. So there's some pretty interesting results from Stability AI with our cow label example. We have one more image model to try. So we'll go here and we'll use DALL-E 3. So this was the original one that blew everyone away when OpenAI released it. And they came out with their astronaut riding a unicorn to space or whatever it was. And so we'll give it a go with the exact same prompt. You'll notice you get a lot less options when it comes to DALL-E. And one interesting thing to note about DALL-E 3 is whether or not you want it, it does use the LLM to improve the prompt. So that's just a step it does. You can't control whether it does that or not in the case of DALL-E 3. And there's our result. And you can see that coming from DALL-E 3, we get quite a cartoonish, simplistic image. And if we look over here at what we got out of the other models, it's actually, in my opinion, much, much worse coming out of DALL-E 3. And let's just give it a chance, though, because we don't want to just say, oh, it's no good. So let's do our rustic pine soap one, which we saw over here, which I think these results, like these are gorgeous, in my opinion. I think they look really good. So let's see how DALL-E 3 does with that example. So we'll go here and we'll try that one. And there we go. Pine soap, pine scented. That's actually not bad. It's interesting. I don't think it's nearly as nice as these ones here, but it's still pretty interesting. Now, I wanted to point out that I've actually chosen quite a difficult example for these image models because I'm asking for a label, which is not necessarily what it's best at. What it's best at is creating actual like images and scenes. So I thought I'd show you an example of something a bit more suited to what the models are good at. And you'll have your own ideas of what you want to do. Let's just go with the default style. We'll go widescreen and we'll say a romantic movie scene between a red-headed lady and a tall man wearing a raincoat. So let's see how it goes with something like this. So it's a fairly specific description. We'll use the LLM to improve the prompt, and we'll say here blurry and maybe faded. And we'll see what kind of beautiful cinematic, and then at the end I'll say cinematic. And so, yeah, a romantic movie scene between a redheaded lady and a tall man, not talk man, a tall man wearing a raincoat, cinematic. Let's see what kind of results we get from that. And this time I'm going to turn the chaos factor right up so we get big variations and we get 4 different interesting images. That's it. If you'd like to try this out, go to SimTheory.ai and sign up. We have these 4 image models available now that I demonstrated: Midjourney, Stable Diffusion XL, Stability AI, and DALL-E 3. We will always be adding whatever the best and latest models are. That's the whole idea of SimTheory. We want to try out the latest and best models. And this is a great way for you to experiment with your image creation because you've got them all right there. You've got all the options available and you can go through and see what you can create in terms of images.